as of the end of this month that looks at what's going on as of January 1st will give us some indications there. And consumer financial health, are they sticking with us or not? And then lastly, what are some of those input costs? Are they going to stay stable? Are they going to move higher? Are there some opportunities for them to decrease in some places? Those would be some opportunities there. Last things, price risk management, right? If you're seeing these high prices and you think, what's the opportunity to maybe manage some of that price risk? We've got different options. We've got some forward contracts or some private treaty type stuff that you could use, all right? And there's ways that you can lock in a price or set a price floor, all right? How do we compare across these? So there's some great work that Kenny Burdine out of University of Kentucky does. He works a lot with Josh Maples and James Mitchell out of Mississippi State and University of Arkansas. We've got some awesome livestock economists across the country. So I don't have to do all the work. I can just steal their stuff. They provided this really handy table where you can compare what are the trade-offs, right? So if I want to use a forward contract, that's great, but it doesn't let me keep any upside potential. So if I'm really not worried about prices moving too much lower, I really see a lot of opportunity for these prices to move higher. Maybe I want to use something like an option contract or LRP. But I don't necessarily have those 50,000 pounds for a full contract. Well, maybe then LRP insurance is going to be something that works for you. I can share these slides with Tammy where it provides a little bit more information about LRP as well, where you can insure just a single head at a time, try it out, different coverage levels compared to that futures market index, and for different time frames out. But I'll leave it there. It's 8:30. I'd be happy to answer any more questions as well. And I'll be here for a little bit too. Yes?
The government, as I understand, is looking at allowing Argentine beef. How would that affect the market?
Yeah, okay, so great. I'm glad you brought that up. So this is that fat question or issue when it comes to that higher dressed weights and more beef being produced, right? Okay, so usually beef from Argentina is going to be lean. It's going to be blended in with our fat and made into ground beef, right? So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. The magnitude of how much would be coming in wouldn't necessarily have a huge impact on prices either. So I don't think it would play a huge role overall, just based on magnitude. Where it would help, and where I almost see it as a complement rather than a substitute, is that if we have all of this fat, right, we want some lean to blend it with. And from the dairy side, they were expanding for a lot of this year. We see dairy cow numbers moving up. What does that mean? We're not culling a lot of dairy cows, so that would be a lot of that lean beef to be blended off with a lot of this fat. So if we're bringing in more Argentine beef, that maybe is getting blended in with more of that fat, maybe that keeps that ground beef a little bit more affordable and keeps consumers within the beef category than maybe trading out to something else. That would be kind of my positive read of the situation, but otherwise it just probably isn't going to have a huge impact. In theory, directionally, it's adding to the supplies, it'd be pulling that price down. I just don't think it'll have a huge impact overall. Yes?
So what about the screw worms? You know, I know there's an issue with screw worms. Is that going to affect our beef industry as far as prices?
Yeah, so it's a really complicated question, right? So from a supply standpoint, it's probably going to reduce supplies, make it more expensive, right? So in some ways, it might actually increase prices because we're having to reduce the number of cows that we're processing because they're sick, they've got to get culled, whatever might be going on. Reduced efficiencies, all those kinds of things. The counter to that is going to be the ability to either export beef or the consumer is going to get worried about consuming beef so that somehow demand decreases because of it. That would be kind of the big question mark there. It certainly would have an impact and create costs for producers. So from a margin, it's going to decrease margins. I don't know necessarily how big of an impact it would have directly on the price side of things, just because supply and demand could be working opposite.
Well, have they been able to contain it? It was 70 miles from the US border. Has it been contained or is it getting close?
So they had a new case, I don't know exactly, somewhere in northern Mexico still, I think last week was that. So they're still, the border is still shut. They're still running all of those eradication flights and going through all those protocols, continue to build that plant. So they're still working on it. I don't know how successful it is. But it doesn't appear that they're going to be opening that border necessarily in the immediate term because of that.
Let me ask you, what you told us is the outlook is good for beef, seems to be. Most of us here though have, like I have spring calves and I have fall calves. So what I'm gonna sell is gonna be ready at a certain time.
Yep.
So, the only value I can add is through doing things like castration, dehorning,
Yep.
running health programs like
Yep,
that.
absolutely.
Is the only thing that I can do.
Yep.
Now, that being said, let me ask you this. Is there a cycle, it used to be a long time ago, where cattle were higher in the spring or in the fall or in the summer?
Sure.
Whatever. Does that still hold true? And if so, when are those months?
Yeah, so spring is the highest, usually around March, April is where we usually see some of the highest prices, February, March time frame. Lows are usually around October, September to November time frame is where those lows are. It'll vary based on the weight category. So 500 to 600 pounds, those lighter weights, you'll see a bigger swing than those heavier 700 to 800 pounds. But that would be the normal price swing. So that's reflecting both the tighter supplies. So nationwide, about 75% of calves are springborn. And so they're coming to the market in the fall, right? And so they're either going to stockers in Oklahoma on wheat pasture, or maybe they're finding their way into a feedlot somewhere with cheap feed in Texas or something like that. But
So our best time is to sell calves in the spring.
yes, from a price standpoint.
But when you say that, you're talking about selling 500-pound calf, wean calves?
Yep. Yep. So if you do some preconditioning, the vaccination, castration, that's all going to add value regardless of when you sell them. So I recommend those to the extent that you have the infrastructure, the land available, and it pencils out. It's really a benefit cost calculation, right? You can see that premium of sometimes with like vaccination, maybe it's $3, $4 a head, or a hundredweight, excuse me. What does that do from the cost that you have to do to put that in? Not just on the cost of the vaccine, but all the infrastructure and the depreciation, time, labor, things like that that go into it. You just kind of have to pencil that out for your operation. Yep. Did I answer that question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Perfect. Yep. Other questions? All right. Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Before y'all leave, if you made a list of weeds that you might have, either give it to me or give it to Tammy, so we can, that